Hello and a very warm welcome to everyone taking the time to join us today. Before we begin the main presentation, it would be really helpful if you could just take a few minutes and use the chat box facility to indicate whether you're a potential or current TICT candidate, a college-based mentor or tutor, somebody supporting candidates completing TICT unit in your own college, or another job role. And this will allow us to tailor today's presentation to best suit your needs. Thanks. Okay, great. We've got some IV assessors. Great. Thanks, Susan. It was good to see some familiar names there as well on the participants list. So welcome everybody, and hello to those who have already met previously. Hi, Louise and Eleanor. Great assessors and mentors, and Fee as well. Great, it's nice to see you here, Derek and Deborah and Susan. Excellent. Okay, so we've got a spread of people, hopefully with a little bit of understanding about the programme, so we'll maybe go a little bit light touch in terms of that process. As mentioned earlier by Kat, we will be doing leaving some time at the end of today's webinar for a Q&A session, but also feel free to type in any questions that may come up as I'm working through the slides, and if I can incorporate any responses as we're going through, then happy to do that. And anything that I can't respond or not covered while the presentation is running, we'll pick up in the later Q&A session at the end of the webinar. Is that okay with everybody? Okay, so what's the focus for today? Well, there's three things that we wanted to cover in today's webinar. And in the first part of the session, I'll be providing you with an update regarding some of the new web content and the changes we've made to TICT paperwork since last year. And I'll do a little very brief explaining of how TICT works and just highlighting again some of the benefits of the programme as part of a suite of ITE qualifications. The second half of the session today, I'll be handing across to Mari, our external verifier for TICT, and Mari is going to be highlighting some of the good practice that's come up in recent EV activity, but also pointing out a few things to be aware of or to take account of if you're assessing or IVing any candidate work. So, in terms of teaching colleges today, you should all be pretty familiar already that it's an SCQF credit rated unit, and it's focused really on the key things that are required for the role of a college lecturer, which is planning, preparing, delivering, and then evaluating the lesson, making sure that that's tailored effectively and that the learning, teaching and assessment is fit for purpose and is doing what you need it to do in terms of preparing your candidates. In terms of the focus for TICT, its principal focus is ensuring that new appointed college lecturers understand these processes, but it also helps establish and reinforce the importance of becoming a critically reflective practitioner, providing candidates with valuable opportunities to reflect on and to evaluate their own practice. So you'll be aware that in terms of the background, it does align very closely with things like the PDA awards and also with the TQFE provision. So it's designed to complement not only these ITE qualifications, but also to complement pre-existing college induction-based programmes. The unit is in many respects quite unique because it's co-delivered with you in partnership with people working in colleges. And that's exactly as it should be, because you're best placed to be able to work and support individual candidates carrying out their teaching observations and assessing their work. CDN's role when it comes to TICT is to provide the background support materials and resources to support that blended learning approach. So things like our LearnOnline platform. and also to provide you with paperwork and systems so that you can then submit your assessment decisions to us, and then we undertake that external verification process before certification. The whole process for a college lecturer, for me, has to be underpinned by experiential development, and that's why this qualification, like the other PDAs and things like the TQFE programme, have to be delivered within a live setting where you're working with a real class and not under a simulated environment. And interestingly, I was checking with our learning technologist. TICT is actually the second most used CDN LearnOnline resource, and that is only exceeded by the use of the current materials for the work placement standard. So we certainly have quite a wide reach and quite a wide uptake of these free to use LearnOnline materials. Currently, we have a range of colleges using the TICT unit, including Dundee and Angus, West Highland College, North Highland College, Fife, Borders College, Argyll College, Enclan, Nescall and Forth Valley College, and we've got some of these colleges represented here today. In addition to that, we also have a number of other colleges that are using it informally, just purely as a staff development resource without formally registering candidates to go through the programme. And equally, that is actually quite appropriate as well. We're happy for the materials to be used in any way that you see fit. So what's new in terms of this year? Well, normally in the summer I undertake a fairly large-scale review of the subject content. And for those of you who've been delivering TICT for a while, you might have remembered that last year's updates included splitting up the sections for easier navigation and access to information, and then adding in the new tutor-mentor documents and the candidate upload area. And that has been going particularly well, and we were really pleased with the way people are using and working with that new format. The good news is that for 2018-19 we've kept to the same structure, but we have been working behind the scenes on a major reworking of the content. And today I'm happy to say that we have a new look TICT site which is nearing completion. It involves a mobile-friendly layout and improved interactivity, which we hope will help increase the levels of engagement and also active interaction with the content. In terms of new subject area, new information, we've included a variety of things in the pre-existing sections. So for example, when the new site goes live, you will see new information about STEM, education for sustainability, and technology-enhanced learning, amongst other things. We've also introduced some new information on the theories of learning and teaching, and have included references and information about current educational research and how this may shape the practice in an effort to get people and new lecturers particularly engaging with research. So let's take a brief look at what you will be working with when the new site goes live towards the end of October, because currently you're still working with the old site. So one of the new things that's been happening over the last year that some of you might already be aware of is there's been a Scottish Government College Improvement Project on retention and attainment. And we've got some information provided in our new TICT site on that in two particular categories. So we've got a general description about what this initiative is under sector initiatives. And then we've got more detailed information about the quality improvement model that's being used by the 5 colleges involved in the pilot within our professional development section at the end. I mentioned that part of the new look for 2018-19 is more interactivity. So you will see, for example, in this screenshot that we still have things like our learning outcomes and objectives quiz, but what we've got is we've got the opportunity to click on a response and then receive some information. So it's a little bit nicer and cleaner to look at. You'll also spot that we've also got direct web links throughout the text. But we also, in terms of functionality with our new look TICT site, we have a separate section on resources, which means if you're not working through the content on an ongoing basis, but you want to access key documents, those are available on the home page. and we thought that might be particularly useful for tutors, lecturers, and also college mentors. Mentioned that reflection and reflective practice is a key part of the job role, and we've been trying to ensure that there is scope for people to start building up these skills so that it becomes embedded in practice as a new college lecturer. So you will see in the new site that we've got areas where candidates can type in their own responses, start thinking about activities and things that they want to do to take forward their development process. Oh, sorry, apologies. Okay, in terms of interactivity built into the new system, with places for candidates to sense check their level of understanding of key topics. So we've got sliders and, as I say, these areas where people can reflect back on what the learning means for them in their job. And you'll see there's a save button there to save the response, so you can then track back that. The new system also uses a system of micro badges, which you achieve as you work through the content, watch the videos, and work through each section. The advantage of this is not only does it track your progress, but it allows you to stop and start the course and restart at the point where you left off previously. So that's hopefully something that will encourage people to use it a bit more systematically. Technology enhanced learning is a key thing now for colleges with their VLE platforms, etc. And you'll see in this slide we've got sort of increased information about how to use technology purposefully and using it in the right way to support high quality learning, teaching and/or assessment. So there's more information about this topic within the new site, and you'll see in this slide we're referring back to things like the Nesta report for future skills and employment in 2030. So we're trying to link things back to key initiatives like DYW and the Learner Journey Review, etc. throughout the text. And of course, we know that digital literacy and literacy skills, digital skills are valuable not just for our students, but they're equally important for our college staff as well. And also it's about cybersecurity, so thinking about how you use the technology safely. And that's a key thing that is threaded through the new content. Okay, so in terms of summing up, in terms of where we are, we have the pre-existing site, which is currently working with the majority is the old materials. The new content should come online by the tail end of October, and we're just negotiating the best time to do that because we don't want to disrupt the process for people submitting candidate assessment evidence for our planned EV date towards the tail end of October. So I think that just to reinforce some of the key points before I pass it back across to Mary, key benefits as to why you'd use TICT. Well, firstly, you don't have to work through every section. So if you're working with candidates in the college, because we've now introduced a lot of new content, the key sections you should be directing them to look at are obviously the learning and teaching area, the assessment, the feedback, power feedback session, and lesson planning and learner engagement. The other sections, things like the college context and professional development and sector initiatives, those are things that we hope will be of use to a wider range of college staff and lecturers. And those are things that can be used once people have perhaps completed TICT formally to dip in and dip out of at a later point, supporting that career-long professional learning. Okay, so there's been no specific questions have come up at this point, so what I'll do now is I'll just hand across to Mary for the next part of the presentation.
Thanks, Sandra Jane. So as Sandra Jane was saying earlier, I carry out external verification for the submissions which come into us here. And as we were saying earlier, and you're probably all aware, that this course was developed a few years ago now to complement each college's existing induction programme so that new lecturers across Scotland were being given a kind of standardised, consistent introduction to their role. And I'm really pleased to see how colleges are now engaging with the programme. I think it's a really good induction programme for new lecturers. I know that at least one college, they have a really structured approach to this course, and they embed it in their own programme of induction, and they've made it mandatory for all new lecturers to complete TICT in 6 months starting to teach. Like any support programme, it does require resources, and the colleges who have in place a kind of team of teaching fellows, advisors, it works really well when they're the ones who are the mentors. Sorry, I'm just going to swap over to Sandra Jane's headset and see if it sounds any better. Okay, hopefully the sound will be a wee bit clearer now using the new headset. Yeah, so I was just saying, like any kind of programme to support lecturers, it does require resources, and not all colleges have the kind of team of teaching fellows or learning and teaching advisors in place, but it does work really well when it's this group of advisors who are acting as mentors and assessors, because usually in the college this team of people will be the ones doing the PDA and the TQFE mentoring too. So they're used to giving feedback and providing that support for new staff. So my first bullet point is about the record of evidence, and it's just really saying, use the record of evidence to give feedback. It's already prepared for you, and we've got the performance criteria and the different elements listed down the left, so it's easy to use. And again, if possible, use it electronically, because then you can expand the boxes and give more feedback. And in a lot of cases, in the colleges, it's multiple assessors who are involved in this programme, so using the same instrument for giving feedback makes sure that all the lecturers are kind of getting a consistent and standard method and level of feedback. The next point is action plans, and I've put that there because I noticed that one college in the last round of EV had followed up the feedback with a nice action plan. It was a kind of development plan for the lecturer to support them going forward from having completed the TICT programme. The TICT programme, in my mind, is predominantly developmental, so the feedback is important in motivating the individual to keep on learning and keep on developing their practice. And I quite liked the idea of an action plan, as long as it's presented in a positive and supportive way. It conveys the message that development is career-long and continuous. It's been good to see, when I've been looking through all the verification materials, it's good to see where there is multiple assessors or mentors. It's good to see the records of verification going on, or standardisation. Good to see records of meetings and discussions where there's evidence that these things, the level of feedback and the consistency of feedback is actually being discussed and acted on. So that's been good to see. And that point is obviously only appropriate for colleges where there are multiple assessors involved in the programme. Again, the next point is just reinforcing really that the feedback should be supportive to lecturers. And all that I have to say, all the feedback that I've seen recently has been very, very supportive and very encouraging and positive. And that's not to say that if there are areas for development that they shouldn't be identified. Of course they should, and they should be discussed, but in a supportive way, of course. These lecturers, of course, are predominantly new to practice. They've hopefully got a long teaching career ahead of them, and I think it's really important not to dent their confidence at this stage. So even if things haven't gone perfectly well in the observation, for example, they've got to be encouraged, to keep going and keep practicing and trying new things. That people are not going to do that if they're in fear of failure. But as I say, all the commentary I've seen through the external verification has been really supportive and positive, and that's great to see. So things to avoid when assessing and verifying, obviously just things like inconsistency of feedback. I think there was only one case in the last round of verification. There was only one case where I think one assessor was providing much more detailed, it was quite obvious that one assessor was providing more detailed feedback than another who had just been kind of handwriting on the record of evidence. So just to watch out for that and make sure you're doing things as consistently and standardised as possible. And the last point here, the record of evidence. So there should be comments, and it's not okay just to tick, but there should be commentary. I have to say I don't think that was the case in the last round of EV. Everybody had given fairly extensive, comprehensive feedback to their candidates, so that was great to see. And I think that was all the comments I had. As I say, it was all really good standards that I witnessed in the last round of EV. Very positive practice. If there had been any action points in previous EV, they'd all been developed and all been actioned. So there was, it was really good practice to witness. So thanks very much.
I just want to jump in with a few comments here as well, just to say that when you are presenting the candidates for AB, it's just to make sure that where items have to be ticked, circled or signed, that they are done so. It just means that we're not coming back to you to say, certain things have not been completed for the candidates to be put forward for AB. And also, from anybody who's on the webinar just now, if they wish to make any comment about the new upload section as to whether they feel it's better or if they would, how they feel it's going, and so just so that I can take that forward and speak to our technician about it if we need to in any way. Thanks.
Hi folks, it's Sandra Jane back here again. There are a couple of things that I just wanted also to highlight that you will notice when the new TICT site goes live next month. We have updated a variety of the kind of key documents, mainly cosmetic changes, things to make them a little bit more user-friendly, but we've also updated things like our lesson plan, just basically to reflect the typical types and formats of lesson plans that are more appropriately being used in colleges today. Our previous lesson plan template was pretty light and lean. So from that perspective, keep an eye out for the new documents. We've also updated the candidate action planning kind of log, again, to make it something that's hopefully a little bit more engaging to use, along with the TICT unit specification. So you will have the chance to hopefully feedback some of your comments and feedback on the new look site in the coming months. And the other point that came up, I did ask at a meeting fairly recently for some feedback on the use of Teaching Colleges Today. And thanks to the member of staff from Dundee and Angus College who came up with a great idea that I thought was worthwhile highlighting to you today. Her comment to me was that for a new member of staff being observed carrying out a teaching observation was quite challenging, and that what would be really helpful, and an approach that they had tried to encourage, was to allow that new member of staff to observe other members of staff teaching within the college, just to familiarise themselves with what was good learning and teaching ahead of that process. Now, we can't formally include that as part of the TICT assessment criteria. It's, the unit doesn't allow us to do that, but that is something that is something that's maybe worthwhile considering if you have the flexibility to do that. Anne, I see your comment here. Do you have to use the CDN lesson plan? No. The new lesson plan, which you haven't had sight of yet, does include some more scope to reflect on the lesson, and it's a bit more thorough than the pre-existing one that appears on our current live site. As long as it covers the essential requirements based and detailed in the unit specification, you can use your in-house lesson plan if you have one. And great, it's good to see, Susan, that you're commenting there that the upload section is easy to use. That's part of the reason that we're hanging fire. We think that probably we will just hang fire until the EV upload is complete before switching to the new site, just in case there's any kind of glitches with that. So that's why you'll have to bear with us a little bit for the delay. Yep. And I spotted your comment there, Derek. Yes, you're absolutely right. Our pre-existing teaching plan was lightweight. Yes, absolutely. Part of that is the fact that although it's an SCQF level 7 credit rated unit, it's only been credit rated as 3 SCQF credit points. So it's a fine balance that we're having to draw between putting in useful content in our LearnOnline materials and making sure that it doesn't go beyond the level there for an SCQF level 7 unit. So it's a fine line, but we have made our new lesson plan a lot more robust. So definitely have a look at that, but feel free to use your own. Okay, thanks.
Has anybody got any more questions that you wish to put to Mary or SJ? If you wish to just type them into the chat box, that would be great. I've also put the link to the professional learning site for CDN LearnOnline if you want to go and have another look at some of the materials. If not, then I will stop the recording at the moment and you can still put your questions into the chat box.